just reset again. So I'll just say good afternoon. Thank you for being here today. We'll get ready to get started in just 1 minute. All right. All right. So I think we were waiting for just a couple more folks to get in, but it looks like our participant list is coming in quickly. Thank you all for being here. We will get started in just 1 minute, but excited to talk about RISE PA and how you can get involved and get ready to apply and support applications coming to Pennsylvania. Okay. I'm going to share my screen now. Welcome, Katie. We're going to go into full presentation mode here. All right. So thank you all for being here this afternoon. We are going to be talking about RISE PA, the new CPRG Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program being launched in Pennsylvania to support industrial decarbonization. It is a huge opportunity for industry, unions, and environmental groups. Just a quick overview of the agenda. And a few housekeeping notes. I want to note first that this webinar is being recorded. So we will have a recording available after the webinar, along with all of the resources and materials you'll hear and see today. You'll also see in on the interface, there's a Q&A box to ask questions. Type yours in throughout the webinar. We can talk through any questions. And if we don't get to them, we'll either follow up after the call or find other ways to answer. And then we are going to go a little quick overview of the program summary. Do a quick panel discussion on why this program matters with a wonderful group of folks, including Joanne Kilgour from Ohio River Valley Institute, Rob Baer from the Building and Construction Trades Council, Katie Bloom from Conservation Voters of Pennsylvania, and Jeff Malk from Ceres. And then we'll have our keynote from Louis Crack to go over the details of RISE PA. All right, so program summary. So Pennsylvania was recently awarded $396 million to implement a statewide industrial decarbonization grant program, which tackles the largest source of pollution in Pennsylvania, that being, of course, industrial pollution. This program is going to provide competitive grants for small, medium, and large-scale decarbonization projects at industrial facilities to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and coal pollutant emissions. Eligible projects should be reducing industrial sector emissions, whether that's through electrification, efficiency, process emissions reductions, fuel switching, installing on-site renewable energy, or utilizing carbon capture and storage, as well as reducing fugitive emissions from natural gas, oil systems, and coal mining. So we're expecting the program to launch early 2025. So we've got Louis here to provide a little preview of what's coming, what's in store for the next several months ahead of the launch, as well as how you can get ready. So Without further ado, I think I'll pivot over to our panel discussion to talk about this program from the industry, labor, and environmental perspectives, and how we can all benefit and contribute to the success of this program. So Joanne, I'll pass it to you.
Thanks so much, Julia. As Julia mentioned, my name is Joanne Kilgour. I'm the Executive Director of the Ohio River Valley Institute, and I'm honored to be with you all here today to moderate our panel discussion portion of the event. The RISE Pennsylvania program is such an important opportunity for Pennsylvania because it stands to benefit so many key constituencies, including working families, industry, and the environment and environmental health. So to speak to this opportunity, we're joined by a fantastic panel, including Rob Baer with the Pennsylvania Building and Construction Trades Council, who can share about the labor opportunities in industrial decarbonization. Katie Bloom with Conservation Voters of Pennsylvania discussing the environmental benefits of the program, and Jeff Mock with Ceres discussing the industry opportunities for the program. So welcome to all of our panelists. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your insights. So this first question is to each of you, and I'd love if you could just share what excites you about this program and how do you see your constituents benefiting from RISE PA? So Rob, if we could start with you, I'd love to hear what excites you about the program and what opportunities you see for labor.
Oh, what excites me about the program is the jobs. So the building trades, and it's glad to see Katie Bloom on here. We're always crawling around the halls of the Capitol together working on issues. Industrial decarbonization feeds right into what the building trades does. We take care of the steel mills, the cement mills, the chemical factories, the recycling, pretty much energy, right? Anything that right now emits carbon, we're probably working on it. Getting a chance to decarbonize with new technologies, carbon capture, carbon sequestration, new fuel sources, renewables, new fuel. There's an endless possibility here. We're working Cleveland Cliffs, which is right down the street from my office, got a big industrial decarbonization grant to do more electrification at that steel mill. And we launched our Union Energy program, myself and Angel Ferrito from the Pennsylvania FLCO from there last week. So it's a really exciting proposition here that the federal government is acknowledging we can do more, we can do better, we can give funds to the state. And in the meantime, we can create these jobs with good labor standards, put people to work, increase our workforce, and at the same time, be putting them in jobs with family sustaining wages, healthcare benefits, retirement. So there's a lot here for us to do. And it's a really exciting time. And we get the benefit of lowering greenhouse gas emissions. I mean, come on, that checks all the boxes, So yeah, I'm really excited.
Thank you so much. Katie, if I could ask you the same question, what excites you about RISE PA and how can constituents in the environmental community benefit from this program?
I think it's great. And I thank you, Rob, for the shout out. One thing Rob and I have always agreed on is the same pollutants that pollute our communities and increase asthma rates, et cetera. Those are the same pollutants that workers at these facilities are breathing into, right? And with 30% of Pennsylvania's emissions coming from the industrial sector, we are thrilled with this program and opportunity to decarbonize. Some of the things about the program we love is that low income and disadvantaged communities, what we often term frontline or environmental justice communities, are going to be at the forefront of some of these projects and keeping in line with the Biden administration's Justice 40 principles through some of this funding. We're also excited that some of these projects have to achieve long-lasting and certain results. Which means that whatever happens to decarbonize these facilities must be real. And there's a lot of interesting things happening out there to cease these emissions. And we're really excited about some of that. And I think it's a great opportunity for communities that have been left behind continually by Pennsylvania's extractive history to start moving forward, and having a cleaner community and cleaner air to breathe.
Thanks, Katie. Jeff, this question will not surprise you. What excites you about the RISE PA program, and how can industrial constituents benefit from the program that's going to be rolled out later this year, early 2025?
Thanks so much for the question and for inviting me to join today. Just quickly want to mention Series is a nonprofit advocacy organization that I work for, and we're working to accelerate the transition to a cleaner, more just and sustainable world. And we really do that by leveraging many business voices. And one of the reasons that we're excited about the industrial decarbonization opportunities in general is just companies are recognizing the enormous risks associated with climate change, and they feel the need to mitigate those risks, whether it's from extreme weather or disruptions to supply chains or volatility of energy prices from fossil fuels. Decarbonization and RISE PA is going to provide a lot of opportunities for that. And one of the reasons that we and the companies we work with are excited is because a lot of these companies have corporate sustainability goals, and they, as well as addressing climate change, sectors like steel and cement, chemicals, energy production are major drivers of Pennsylvania's economy, and yet they are traditionally among the largest energy emitters. And so transitioning to low carbon processes, it's going to be tough. It's going to require significant investment and innovation, and that's why we're excited about RISE PA. For a couple of reasons that we can see it being helpful. First of all, of course, the financial support for innovation. Decarbonizing manufacturing, like I said, can be expensive. It involves developing and scaling new technologies, retrofitting existing infrastructure, and sometimes even redesigning entire production processes. And so RISE PA is going to be able to provide that financial support to help companies deploy these solutions that they might not otherwise be able to afford. Another reason companies are excited about it are governments around the world are ramping up regulations around disclosure requirements or emissions, and companies know that over time there's going to be more and more pressure to decarbonize. And so by taking advantage of RISE PA now, businesses can stay ahead of the curve, and they can develop technologies and practices that are going to help meet those future emissions standards and avoid costly penalties. So it's really about RISE PA is about future-proofing these businesses. And then third, the driving economic competitiveness and growth. The companies that lead now in decarbonization in adopting RISE PA's program will have a competitive edge in the future, because consumers, investors, supply chains are shifting towards sustainability. And decarbonizing now is going to help grow the customer base, the number of partners, and capital flow. And so it's really what RISE PA is offering is really not just good for the environment, it's good for business. And so, the RISE PA is a powerful catalyst for change, and companies understand that decarbonization is not just an option, it's an imperative. And so RISE PA is really going to help them not only survive the energy transition, but thrive.
Thank you so much, Jeff. And we're going to stay with you after one brief comment. So I see a couple people have their hands raised. If you have questions, please use the Q&A box function, and then we will get to questions and comments at the end of the prepared program. So thank you so much for your engagement, and the Q&A box is just at the bottom of your screen. So Jeff, as I mentioned, I'd love to stay with you here for a minute and ask, what can companies be doing now to prepare for the program application once it's open?
Yeah, there's a lot actually to prepare for the application. Companies could begin by assessing the sources of their current emissions and identifying where decarbonization efforts could have the greatest impact. And once those opportunities are identified, companies could consider the specific technologies or strategies they plan to implement. Really start thinking about that now, so you're ready to go when the application process is going. And then companies could also start thinking through, what are the stakeholders that they are going to want to engage on this project? Could it be research institutions? Could it be potential technology providers? Start thinking through the outreach that will be part of this process. And then finally, as was mentioned, earlier with the program description, think about the larger suite of potential benefits. Not only, other co-pollutants that can be abated, but also improving workplace conditions or creating ancillary jobs in green industries. It really could help in the future to consider the total potential economic and societal benefits of their project.
Great. Thank you. So next, I'd like to turn back to you, Rob, and ask as companies are starting to think through their applications and what they can be preparing, how should they engage labor to make sure that as many of the jobs that are created are union jobs?
Well, a lot of the programs are going to have labor standards in them. They'll probably have apprenticeship requirements in them. They should be reaching out to us, making sure that when they select their contractors meet all the requirements for what they need to do. And to also piggyback what Jeff said, one of the things that the trades has in the industrial sector that we've done for years is we call them GESA, Guaranteed Energy Saving Projects, with a lot of our contractors. They could be also piggybacking the grant money, the decarbonization into the Guaranteed Energy Savings projects, and they get a dual benefit at those sites, so when they reach out to us, we can put them in contact with the right contractors, the right people, make sure all the labor standards are met. And when their application goes in, it's right and tight. I always said it's better to have it done once than have to do it 2 or 3 times. So we encourage them to reach out to us. We're more than happy to work with them and get them in the right direction. And if there's one thing that we are good at, it's building things. That's what we do. So yeah, I would encourage them to reach out to us early on in the application process.
Great, thank you. So Katie, how can environmental groups begin to engage and show their support for RISE PA as we move into the program guidance and application phase? Do we have you, Katie?
She's frozen on my end. We may have momentarily lost her.
All kinds of
There
bandwidth.
she's moving some.
There we go. Bandwidth issue. I am sorry. I would just want to say, kind of echo a little bit actually of what Jeff and Rob said. It's stakeholder engagement. We know in these local communities what these polluting industries are. We know reports from DEP, we have environmental justice. Well, there's wonderful mapping out there. And start engaging. If you know the businesses in your community, if you know the elected officials in your community, start reaching out to folks and do the stakeholder engagement as environmental organizations as well, because these projects could be transformative not only for labor and industry, but the health of our communities. So really just want to kind of double down on what Rob and Jeff already said is stakeholder engagement and bring everybody to the table to get the best possible application out.
Thank you, Katie. And so I'd like to give a huge thanks to all of our panelists. We really appreciate you being here and sharing your insights based on the constituencies that you represent. And I look forward to ongoing and future conversations with you all as the program moves forward. And I'm now very pleased to introduce Louis Crack. Louis is the infrastructure coordinator with the Governor's Office of Critical Investments and has really been the heart and soul of this program since its inception. So we're honored to have Louis here today, and I'll pass things over to you.
Thank you so much, Joanne, and big thanks to Evergreen Action as well for having me come speak today and hosting this amazing event. So I'm just going to take a minute here to queue up my slide deck before I jump into it. And Julia, can you just confirm you're seeing my slides on your end?
I am in full screen.
Amazing. So My name is Louis Crack, and I'm incredibly excited and grateful to be leading the implementation of RISE PA. And you've already heard from our other speakers today that the Department of Environmental Protection is receiving $396 million through the Climate Pollution Reduction Grants to create a statewide industrial decarbonization grant program. However, that's not entirely accurate, because the exact figure of the amount of funding we are receiving is on your screen there in size 138 font. If you've seen any of my other presentations on other topics, you know I'm very fond of size 138 font, but we are officially receiving 396,108, or I'm sorry, $396,108,225, which is such a big number that I actually had to take time to memorize all 9 digits. And that's ultimately a very great problem to have, to be receiving so much money. It takes rote memorization to remember the entire figure. I just want to take a second to put this gargantuan number into context. So the United States has a population of about 345 million people. So if the RISE PA award were its own country, it would have 50 million more people than the United States. So it's truly a staggering figure and a transformational amount of money. I'm very proud to say on behalf of DEP that this is the second largest competitive award that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has ever received, and certainly the largest amount of money we've received to directly address climate change in this fashion. Worth noting that the only award larger than this one that Pennsylvania has received was $500 million for PennDOT to upgrade the I-83 bridge. And that announcement was actually made the week before that we found out we were getting this other very large amount of funding. So July was quite a lucrative month for Pennsylvania. And again, we're so grateful for this opportunity. I also wanted to take a minute to note that RISE PA, as you've heard from some of our other speakers, is not just a climate program, but also an economic development program that aims to help increase industrial companies, both national and international competitiveness. And for context about the scale and scope of industry in Pennsylvania, it comes as no surprise that the industrial sector has been a central economic driver for the last century, and helps to produce critical goods, steel, cement, glass, things we need to run the economy. And manufacturing in particular contributes over $113 billion in state domestic product and provides 11% of the Commonwealth's jobs. So keeping this legacy in mind, the goal of RISE PA is to reduce both greenhouse gas and co-pollutant emissions from Pennsylvania's industrial sector, which, as you've already heard, is the highest emitting sector statewide, accounting for about 30% of Pennsylvania's total greenhouse gas emissions footprint. And through this program, we are going to be offering grants for small, medium, and large decarbonization projects at industrial facilities. That these projects have the potential to reduce millions of metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, while creating up to thousands of new good-paying jobs and leveraging hundreds of millions of dollars of private capital. So before I dive into some specifics of the program design, I also just wanted to do a quick plug that we need to hire quite a few staff members at DEP to help administer and run this program. So if you would like to work on a transformational program to address climate change and spur on economic development in Pennsylvania, you will have your chance, hopefully later this fall, to apply for those positions as they become available. So digging into the program design, RISE PA will offer grants for a wide range of greenhouse gas emissions reduction projects because there is no one size fits all for decarbonizing industry. The industrial sector is often referred to as difficult to decarbonize because there's a lot of diversity around the various subsectors, and each facility almost needs a bespoke decarbonization solution in order to reach net zero. So as a result of that, we've intentionally left the definition of an eligible project very broad, but ultimately projects must deploy one or more of the greenhouse gas reduction measures that you see on the screen there. And so I want to take a few minutes to break down these measures further and give you some examples of the types of projects we might expect to see within each category. So the first bullet there, you can see we're looking to fund projects that deploy industrial electrification, efficiency, and reduce process emissions. So within the electrification basket, this could be technologies like low or zero carbon process heat systems, electric heat pumps, combined heat and power, thermal storage, or other systems that are based on either electricity, clean hydrogen, biomass, or waste heat recovery. So again, even just within this one basket, there's a broad, diverse set of possible solutions. In terms of energy efficiency, this is the most cost-effective and shovel-ready decarbonization measure, and could include deploying technologies like those that reduce direct fuel or electricity use, perhaps solutions that involve insulation, sensors, or controls that deploy smart energy management systems or other advanced energy efficiency technologies. And then that last piece of the first bullet, the industrial process emissions, those strategies would reduce waste in industrial applications. They could involve deploying industrial heat pumps or CHP systems, or deploying advanced recycling approaches. Moving on to low carbon fuels, there are a variety of fuel switching technologies that will help enable the transition to low carbon fuels. This could include things like a fluidized dead biomass furnace, a solar thermal heating system, or a direct reduced iron shaft furnace that's either designed or retrofitted for hydrogen-based reduction. The next basket of eligible projects, on-site renewable energy generation, is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. You could expect deploying solar PV, even something like a wind turbine, micro hydropower, or geothermal would all be eligible project types under that category. And then for carbon capture utilization and storage, again, this could encompass a wide variety of technologies, but a couple examples, you could do a flue gas carbon capture system or a calcium carbon looping CO2 capture system at a cement plant, for instance, to help abate the process emissions that are part of that industrial process. And lastly, the fugitive emissions, as you heard earlier, refers to those from natural gas and oil systems and coal mining. So some technology solutions to abate those emissions could include a regenerative thermal oxidizer or a ventilation air system. It's worth noting that one of the really exciting things about this program is that we don't know what all of the potential projects or applications are going to look like at this point in time, but we're leaving room for really innovative solutions or combinations of solutions, and we have the potential to fund some first-of-a-kind projects that will hopefully spur on other projects that may not have happened without the first one happening. So innovation is definitely a North Star of the program design. So now I want to take a few minutes to drill down deeper into exactly what we mean by industrial sector emissions. In order to be eligible, a project has to demonstrate that they are going to reduce emissions from this sector. And every year, DEP publishes a greenhouse gas inventory that breaks down all the emission sources in the Commonwealth by sector. So it's worth pointing out that, again, the industrial sector is the top emitting sector and emitted over 80 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent in 2021, which is the most recent year that we have emissions data from. So industrial emissions come from the 4 subgroups listed there on your screen. You've got industrial fossil fuel combustion, industrial process emissions, fugitive emissions, and we're also including the emissions from the electricity used at industrial facilities, which technically is accounted for in the electricity sector of the greenhouse gas inventory, but we wanted to address those emissions as well. Diving even deeper into what these emissions really mean, the fossil fuel combustion, the industrial fossil fuel emissions subgroup, these are emissions that stem from the fossil fuels that are combusted to either heat or cool industrial buildings or power industrial processes or equipment. So this subgroup is consistently the highest emitting out of those listed on the screen, and accounts for about half of the total greenhouse gas emissions from the industrial sector. Then within the industrial process emissions subgroup, this is emissions from specific types of manufacturing, like cement manufacturing, lime manufacturing, iron and steel production, and the list goes on. As I mentioned earlier, fugitive emissions are also part of the industrial footprint of emissions, and these include emissions from natural gas and oil systems. And what this is referring to is in the emissions associated with natural gas production, transmission, and distribution, as well as oil production, and also the emissions from abandoned oil and gas wells are part of this footprint. But I wanted to draw a distinction that projects are ineligible for funding if they're proposing to plug abandoned wells, because there's a whole separate pot of funding available at DEP for well plugging work. And then lastly, you have the coal mining emissions, which include those from underground and surface mining, as well as coal processing and the emissions from abandoned coal mines. So DEP will issue awards under RISE PA across 3 award tracks. The $40 million small scale award track is going to be exclusively available for small to medium sized manufacturers. And there's a specific definition you must meet in order to be considered a small to medium sized manufacturer. So this refers to manufacturing firms in which the gross annual sales are less than 100 million, has fewer than 500 employees at the plant site, and has an annual energy bill that's greater than $100,000 but less than $3.5 million. We're anticipating that this award track is going to largely consist of energy efficiency projects at these manufacturing firms. And depending on the project size, we're anticipating issuing anywhere between 100 and 1,600 awards that range in size from $25,000 up to $400,000. And the applicant would be responsible for providing a 50% cost share. But I'm going to get into more details on the cost share component of the program in a minute. Moving on to the medium scale award track, both the medium and large scale projects must achieve a minimum 20% reduction in the total greenhouse gas emissions at the industrial facility where the project will be implemented. And here we're looking to fund big, bold, transformative, and innovative ideas. There will be $100 million available in the medium scale award track, and we anticipate issuing anywhere between 5 and 50 awards ranging from $2 million up to $20 million, and the applicant will be responsible for providing a 70% cost share. There will be $220 million available in the large scale award track. We're expecting issuing between 1 and 7 large awards, ranging from $30 million all the way up to potentially $200 million, again, at a 70% cost match with that the applicant must provide. In addition to the base grant amounts, there are bonus adders that are going to be available to increase the award size and decrease the applicant's cost share for projects that go above and beyond the minimum requirements. So, for example, if there's an eligible project that is $10 million, the base grant award would be 30% or $3 million, and the applicant would have to provide a 70% cost match or $7 million towards the total project cost. But if the applicant qualifies for one or more of the bonus adders, then that will increase their grant award and decrease the amount of their cost share. So the first bonus is called the Community Benefits Bonus, and it's a 10% adder that will be awarded to projects that are located in and benefiting low-income and disadvantaged communities. And the applicant must also submit an approved community benefits plan. So again, back to that example of a $10 million project, the bonus would therefore be worth $1 million and would increase the total award to $4 million or 40% of the total project cost. When it comes to the labor needed to carry out these projects, all projects must follow the federal prevailing wage and apprenticeship requirements, but there's an additional bonus for applicants that go above and beyond these requirements. The fair labor bonus is a 10% adder that increases the award size for applicants that commit to good neighbor agreements to ensure access and jobs and business opportunities for local residents, as well as those applicants that develop collective bargaining commitments such as project labor agreements. So back to that $10 million example, it's a 10% bonus. So that would be a $1 million bonus for a $10 million project, which if the applicant qualified for both the community benefits and the fair labor bonus, they would be receiving $5 million or 50% of the total project cost. Lastly, there is the greenhouse gas emissions reduction bonus, which is only available to medium and large scale projects for exceeding the 20% emissions reduction threshold. So this bonus would add up to an additional 10% to the applicant's award. So again, back to that $10 million project, it would, if they receive the full amount of this bonus, that would be an additional $1 million. And if this project received all 3 bonuses, they would receive the maximum possible award, which is 60% of the total project cost, or $6 million. So now I'm going to take a minute to talk about the timeline for the program rollout. DEP is aiming to open the RISE PA program and begin accepting applications in early 2025. And we're currently working on drafting and publishing a comprehensive program guidance document that will detail all the rules and requirements of how to apply. This will likely be released later this fall. We're targeting an October publication date, and this will give prospective applicants the information they need to begin preparing an application in advance of the application portal opening. So the application window itself will remain open with multiple rounds annually until all funds have been obligated. And we're anticipating reviewing the first round of applications and beginning to issue awards in mid-2025. We only have 5 years or until 2029 to spend all the money and complete all the projects. So time is extremely of the essence here. 5 years may sound like a lot of time, but we anticipate that some of the larger, more complex projects will potentially take years to implement and complete. So this is really not a whole lot of time to get a whole lot of projects done. So for applicants to qualify for the base grant award, eligible projects have to satisfy the following requirements. Applicants are going to need to describe the overall approach that their project is taking, including the greenhouse gas reduction measures, demonstration of funding need, and speaking to the transformative impacts of the project, going back to innovation being a North Star of this program. Applicants are also going to need to adequately demonstrate the commercial viability of projects, including their readiness to proceed, the reasonableness of the timeframe required for both construction and commissioning of the project. They're going to need to speak to the soundness of their risk management plan and mitigation strategies for those risks, and speak to the certainty of project financing arrangements. Again, because we don't have a lot of time to do these projects, the ideas need to be well developed and close to, if not shovel ready, by the time applicants submit the application. We're also looking to see what the financial viability of the projects are. And so applicants will need to submit detailed budget and budget justification narratives, as well as, this is one of the most important parts, accurately calculating and quantifying the greenhouse gas reduction measures that the project is going to achieve, as well as speaking to the impacts of those greenhouse gas reduction measures. So applicants will need to speak to the magnitude of both short-term and long-term greenhouse gas and co-pollutant emissions reductions and the cost effectiveness of those reductions. Furthermore, it's important that applicants can articulate the environmental and community outputs, outcomes, and performance measures associated with the project, including expected measurable community benefits, and how these projects will benefit low-income and disadvantaged communities, including any expected economic benefits, avoided disbenefits, and applicants will have to speak to the level of engagement, back to the point that the panel was making about stakeholder engagement being a key piece of the process. That is something we'll be looking at. So I just want to make one final distinction before moving on here, that projects that have already received funding through the entire Internal Revenue Services Advanced Energy Project Credit Program will be ineligible to receive funding through RISE-PA. This funding is meant to supplement that effort, but cannot be stacked on top of a 48C allocation. I know this is a lot of information, but we're rounding third and heading into home here. So thank you again for your time and attention. I wanted to take a few minutes to speak to the intended outcomes, what we're really trying to accomplish with this program. So we are looking at emissions reductions, project cost, number of jobs created, and the impact on low income and disadvantaged communities. But we're also hoping to achieve substantial co-benefits by implementing these projects, including helping to provide cleaner air by reducing co-pollutants like criteria air pollutants and hazardous air pollutants. That's also something EPA is very interested in seeing numbers on those reduction of co-pollutants. And again, through the fair labor bonus, this program has the potential to create a lot of good paying jobs as well, while improving indoor and outdoor air quality. So really, at its core, we're trying to drive meaningful pollution reductions while also creating good jobs and a durable career pipeline for workers. RISE PA really is an investment in Pennsylvania industries and will help them to be more competitive both on a national and global scale, both now and into the future. So there will be much more information on the application rules and requirements again once that program guidance becomes available later this fall. And just in closing, I want to thank you all so much again for giving me this platform to share more about RISE PA. We're so excited to have the opportunity to bring a first of a kind program to fruition. It's a really great story for Pennsylvania, as having been one of the birthplaces of the Industrial Revolution. We are now given the opportunity to lead the nation in the industrial decarbonization movement. And at this time, I'm happy to take any questions or comments about RISE PA. And if there's anything further that you want to submit in writing, you can do so to the email address listed on your screen. So many thanks again for having me, and I'll turn it over to you, Julia.
Thanks, Louis. That was such a robust and detailed presentation. We've got several questions in the Q&A chat box. So folks, feel free to continue to put yours in the chat so we can capture them. We may not get to all of them, but we will make sure that they get answered offline. And then also want to note that some of the questions may be outside of the information that we have available today, or we'll definitely take into account. So the first question we received, Louis, was about carbon capture and concerns about it being very energy intensive and concerns about not being sold on the technology. Do we have a percentage of the funding that's going to be used for CCS, or how are you thinking about the allocation of project type when it comes to project award and prioritization?
Yeah, it's a great question. We have not set any sort of caps on how much funding is going to any particular greenhouse gas reduction measure. We did want to include CCUS as an eligible project type because there are certain industries that can't fully decarbonize without it. So that was our rationale for including it. But again, back to my comment about the short time scale that we have to implement this program, it's pretty unlikely, I would say at this point, that certainly a carbon capture and storage project could be carried out in the time we have to do these projects. I am aware there are some newer carbon capture technologies. Again, I go back to the example of like a cement plant. Cement is one industry that needs carbon capture to decarbonize. There are some technologies that could potentially be deployed in the time we have to deploy them. But back to the crux of the question, there is no set allocation for how much funding would go to a CCUS project if it were able to happen in the time frame it needs to.
Thank you, Louis. And a follow-up to that question, the same person also asked if Pennsylvania passes community solar, do you know if this funding from RISE PA could be used for community solar?
I'm having difficulty imagining a scenario in which community solar would be an eligible project type. I could imagine if somehow an industrial company were part, it's more so what we're looking to do is deploying renewable energy on site at industrial facilities. So community solar isn't quite in line with that.
Okay, thank you. Basic question, how can folks receive application forms, learn more about program requirements? Is there a way for folks to sign up, raise their hand and say, I'm interested in getting notified when the application is out?
So I'm pleased to announce we recently launched a webpage on DEP's website for RISE PA, which is where all the program updates, where the program guidance is going to be released, and where you can, again, stay up to date on program developments. So that is one place to check for new and updated information. And I also wanted to flag that on the webpage, we have a couple fact sheets that are live, one that's geared toward the general public and one for potential applicants. So that is your best place to go for the most up-to-date information.
Right. And on the other end of the questions here, for folks who are not going to be potential applicants, we're looking at like an average citizen. What are the implications? Like, why is this good for the everyday Pennsylvanian who may not be directly involved in one of these projects?
Yeah, well, the overall goal of RISE PA is to reduce greenhouse gas and co-pollutant emissions. So there are broad implications for improvements in air quality. Given that this is a statewide program, we are looking to fund projects across Pennsylvania's geography. So, there are many different communities that stand to benefit from improved air quality. On the more abstract side, the extent to which the average person is concerned about economic competitiveness for Pennsylvania industries, that's another huge thing that this program seeks to accomplish. And it's something that Jeff was speaking to earlier of, decarbonizing now helps position Pennsylvania companies to be more competitive as increasing environmental regulations come down the pike, as things like carbon border adjustments happen in Europe. If we want Pennsylvania companies to be able to sell things in Europe, they're going to need to decarbonize. So beyond the direct environmental benefits of reducing air pollution, there are real economic benefits for Pennsylvania's economy as well.
Thanks, Louis. A question for our panelists and moderator. Any thoughts about how state legislative offices can help, either legislatively or otherwise, letters of support? What are ways that we can ask our legislators to help improve the success of this program and support its implementation?
This is my favorite question to answer. I will say, and it kind of goes to what I spoke of previously, but it is not hard to contact your legislator. That information is publicly available. And again, you know what these industries are in your communities. Definitely pay attention to when there are any public meetings going on so that you can make sure that you are engaged in those community benefit conversations as well and those processes. But frankly, contact your state representatives. I know that it is always helpful for any state grant program for, gosh, 30 years. Letters of support from state elected officials for projects are actually important because it shows a um, wide bench of support for things, but also engaging the legislators to make sure that these are good, comprehensive projects that help the business, that help the environment, and help keep people at work. And it's easy to do. It's all there on the state legislative website. And I'm sure that our organizations and other organizations that might be listening in today will be doing some advocacy in the coming year over all of this.
And great points. And can I add on to that for the legislators themselves? You are such strong leaders in convening people in your district, in getting the information distributed. You've got your email list that you can let people know about this program. So really, there are a lot of opportunities that you can be championing this program for your districts and letting them know that it's out there.
Excellent. I should have ended with that one. That was such a fun, organizing, empowering answer. But we'll go back to permitting and community benefits. So I'm going to combine a couple of questions here for you, Louis. Folks want to know more about the community benefit side of this in terms of how you're thinking about the strength, accountability, fund, how do we add teeth to these community benefit agreements to make sure that they're effective and enforced? Is there a plan for that at this point? We'll be learning more soon. What can you share today?
Yes, so the program guidance document that will be released later this fall will contain more information about the rules and requirements for the community benefits bonus. But at this point, we're planning on competitively scoring the community benefits plans that are submitted. So this will encourage applicants to be as comprehensive as possible and do as robust engagement as they can in order to be able to secure an award. One of the positions that we will be hiring for in the RISE PA program office will be tasked with ensuring that the community benefits plans come to fruition. So the way we're planning on doing this is only releasing the funding, that 10% of the total project cost, once all of the elements of the plan have been carried out. So, we're not just going to sign $1 million check and just hope they do everything that they say they're going to do. They're going to need to provide us with proof that they actually carried out the plan.
Thanks, Louis. So we've got a couple of other remaining questions. I think they're primarily around project requirements and scope. So I'm just going to kind of list them to make it easier for you to rapid fire answer. So want to know about project scope decisions. So why not fund pilot projects for new technology? So, for example, methane pyrolysis, industrial carbon capture, basically, the alternative to the shovel-ready projects. And then at the same time, the challenge with shovel-ready projects being ready will also require permitting, and whether Pennsylvania will help support and prioritize these projects that need permitting. And I'll pause there.
So first, to the point about demonstration projects, we are absolutely looking to fund first-of-a-kind pilot or demonstration projects as part of RISE PA, as long as you can get your project done in the amount of time that we have to do these projects. So I've mentioned a few times that innovation is one of the North Stars of this program, and we're hoping to be able to de-risk some of those first-of-a-kind pilot or demonstration projects in hopes that if they succeed, they will spur on similar projects to happen in the future. With regard to permitting, that's obviously a very important component. And luckily, this program is at the Department of Environmental Protection, which issues those permits. So this program is a high priority for both Governor Shapiro and Acting Secretary Shirley. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure that the permitting is acquired on a timeline to enable these projects to come to fruition.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Louis, and our panelists and speakers, Joanne, Rob, Jeff, Katie. We're at time, so I want to let everybody continue on, but this is an incredible hour of rich information on RISE PA, and we look forward to next steps. And we'll be sending out follow-up information. Thanks, everyone, and have